Oh, didn't see you come in again. But now that you're here, welcome to episode 12 of the Inner Sanctum, the internet's one and only dark ambient vlog. I am your host. My name is Joe. Well, now that you're here, and now that we're doing this thing again, and I know you guys have been really waiting for this one, and I've talked about this one quite a bit, going back all the way to the end of the year and to that last unboxing video, and I'm really happy to say that finally, here it is, the Cryo Chamber Special. Yes, Cryo Chamber. And in this episode, I'm going to be running through about 4 or 5 albums that I've really enjoyed in this label so far. And I think if you haven't checked out these albums are albums you should add to your must-buy list, or at least listen to them on Spotify or YouTube or something, because they're absolutely gems in the current dark ambient scene, and I give it my highest recommendation. So, but before we get to that, let's have a little history of the label, shall we? Cryo Chamber was founded back in 2011 by Simon Heath, the mastermind behind such projects as Atrium Carcere and Sabled Sun. The label more or less arose right after the demise of Cold Maid Industry in 2011 and was almost a direct response to sort of, I guess, carry on that torch of just awesome quality dark ambient industrial music that Cold Maid Industry had set and carried on for 2 decades. At the time, Simon had just moved from Stockholm, Sweden to Northern California, USA. And with this opportunity in his hand, he decided that it was time to start his own label, to just release his own music under his own banner, and to, I guess, not rely on others to release his music and take care of his music. He felt like he could do it himself and also take care of lots of other artists, and while doing so, create a whole, I guess, family and community of dark ambient artists that could all collaborate and have this great friendship and thus build this great community that we now have today. And of course, I've talked about that community, the dark ambient community, so many times, and how just wonderful everyone is. There's no fighting, there's no egos, everyone gets along great, and it's so far to date, it's just everything's going great, and I hope it continues this way, and it doesn't turn into like what the black metal scene or the heavy metal scene, stuff like that is nowadays, which is just not even fun to be a part of. But anyway, I'm not gonna diverge. Anyway, Cryo Chamber debuted in 2012 with the Atrium Carcere album, Void, which then was the new album from Atrium Carcere, and he followed it up with Sabled Sun's first album, 2145. These are both Simon Heath's personal projects, of course, and it was a good way to establish the label because these are both great records, and obviously Atrium Carcere was already a well-established and very well-respected name in the scene, so it was pretty much guaranteed right from the get-go he was going to bring attention to the Cryo Chamber label. But I'm guessing he probably didn't expect it would bring so much, and all these years later it would be so popular. I personally first seem to remember coming across Cryo Chamber, and it's weird that I missed it in these first couple years, but I didn't remember coming across it until sometime in 2014 when I started seeing a lot of advertisements appearing on Facebook. And I didn't even click it right away. I was like, what is this? And I was intrigued because I kept seeing stuff like cinematic dark ambient 24-bit, and I was like, this is something I'm really gonna like, but I just was like, just being like a lot of people, just going through my Facebook stream and just ignoring stuff. And I really regret that because I missed out on those early years of the label and probably could have gotten a lot of great records during that period, but I didn't. So it was sometime in 2014 when I finally acquainted myself with the Cryo Chamber, with Sabled Sun and some of the more newer Atrium Carcere albums, as well as some other albums on the label, which are all really great. And already at that point, I think Cryo Chamber was pretty well off, was doing pretty good for themselves. They had a great fan base, and there's no denying the fact that thanks to Cryo Chamber's existence, the popularity of dark ambient music has just bolstered quite a bit in this past decade, and I can only assume with this label continuing onward and just the fan base growing, it'll just get better. The community will get better. More artists will pop up. More great albums will come about, and hopefully, I don't know, somewhere down the road, the dark ambient artists will get more popular in a mainstream way. I'm hoping they don't, because usually when things reach a mainstream sort of audience, that's when the quality often disappears. But if Cryo Chamber just stays the way it is, and it stays as this just immense, deep, introspective genre of music that I think it's meant for introverts and weirdos, then I think it'll be well off for many years into the future, and I think dark ambient will continue to be a great genre of music that I and many others will continue to enjoy. So, if this is your first time joining me on the Inner Sanctum, it's a pretty typical thing where I do a small beer kind of, well, not review, but just let you guys know what I'm drinking. And you may have already saw in the opening part, but I am drinking a Guinness Drought Stout. I am quite passionate about the stouts, and I love stouts, and I love dark beer, and this is a classic, and you know, one that you just can't go wrong with. I mean, I've been drinking this stuff since I was like 20 years old, and never did me wrong, won't do me any wrong. It's delicious. If you guys are drinking a beverage, let me know what you're drinking right now. I mean, what can you say about this? It's got that nice dark bold taste. It's got notes of a little bit of chocolate and coffee in there, and it's a great beer, and it's been around since like 1759, and it's never done me wrong. It's never gonna do anyone wrong. It's a great beer, and I think everyone should drink it. And it goes well with dark ambient because well, we have dark beer and we have dark music, so why not? No point in drinking a nice hoppy pale ale and listening to dark ambient music, right? So let me know in the comments what you guys are drinking, and be mesmerized by the dark Guinness Draft Stouts. I figured I'd start with what I'd probably have to say is my most favorite album on Cryo Chamber so far, and personally speaking, this is the album that was motivation, I guess, well, how can I say it? I guess it's the album that finally pushed me to the point where I wanted to create my own dark ambient music. And the album in question is Sabled Sun's 2146. Sabled Sun, although comparable to Atrium Carcerate, is different in the overall storyline, in where it focuses on a lone survivor of a post-apocalyptic event who's just traveling across the land searching for signs of life, but basically just comes across robots and other just artifacts of the past which have now been overgrown by plant life, and the earth has taken it all back, and he's you kind of get a good feeling of his melancholy and his strife and everything he's trying to do throughout the album, and all the Sabled Sun albums for that matter. You get a good feeling of this character. It's such an immersive concept, and it's cinematic, and if you have this deep imagination, you can easily create this character in your mind, and then just, you know, the story can unfold however you like. You can follow the songs, of course, but I always kind of view it as sort of a vague outline. There's no permanent or very specific storyline here, and Simon does such a great job of that. He gives you this vague outline, and basically the listener fills out the details with their own imagination. And then he did it so brilliantly on this album. And I have to say, I love the other Sabled Sun albums quite a bit. 2145 and 2147, 48 are all really great. And even the Signals, the drone ambient albums are pretty damn good too. But this is just, to me, his masterwork, in at least sort of Sabled Sun is concerned, and one of the best cinematic dark ambient albums ever created. The feeling on this album is just pure loneliness and melancholy, and I think just a frustration of traveling across the city or this plane of existence looking for life and just not finding anything. It's basically this album focuses on this traveler's journey throughout, I guess, a destroyed city where all he really comes across is broken robots and just, you know, again, like I said, it's just small shades of what life used to be, and he does it so well. And it's also worth mentioning that this show, the Inner Sanctum, is named after a song on this album, which is called Inner Sanctum. And I think of the Inner Sanctum in this particular case is this survivor's shelter, his place of comfort in this otherwise destructive, horrible world that he's now living in. And after he's, I guess as the story goes, he woke up from a cryogenic sleep just to find this destroyed world, and just obviously not the way you want to wake up and find your whole existence shattered and destroyed, but that's what he woke up to, and this is what he's got. So it's really interesting, and it's such a great use of field recordings in this, just really make the whole experience so more immersive and everything. And songs like Through the Gates, where it's the first thing you really kind of hear is him walking through the gravel and presumably, you know, traversing the landscape looking for life, or just going back to his shelter with food perhaps, or something, or some sort of artifact of survival. You know, it's really great. And it's also interesting because, much like Atrium Carcerate, it's not really pure dark ambient in that most literal sense. It doesn't sound like projects like Lustmord or Svartsen or Kamarheit. It's much more immersive and deep and cinematic and really more soundtrack music probably than dark ambient. But the dark ambient traits are obviously there, but there's also, for example, I mean, the field recordings I already mentioned, there's also a very, very obvious underlining industrial theme to this album where there's several, like, sort of, I guess, slow beats in the background, stuff like that, overlaid by the dark ambient characteristics. There's also some spoken dialogue on, like, the first track and stuff like that, and a few other places, too. There's a lot of really great songs in this album, and as you can probably imagine, I love them all, but there are a few that really stick out, and obviously the song Inner Sanctum is probably my favorite on this one. It has this slow but epic build that comes to this point at the end where it's just really amazing and just heavenly kind of synth passage that's like epic, but at the same time it has a strange lingering melancholy behind it. And I don't know, as soon as I heard this song, it just really stuck with me as one of the best Sabled Sun songs, and just really just one of the best songs that Simon's ever composed. It's just great stuff, and just the field recordings in the background are so immense, just so immersive, and just this world appears before you as you listen to the song. And there are only 2 songs in at this point, and this whole dark apocalyptic world is appearing before you, and it's incredible. Scanning for Life Forms is another really great song. It's kind of here at the first point of this album where you really kind of hear some more experimental tendencies kind of pushed into the album, and I love this one. It just creates this mental image of, like, I guess I foresee this guy in like some sort of like space suit or some sort of protective radiation suit with some sort of like devices and some sort of like red laser, something coming out. He's like going like this and just looking for life from something like out of like one of the Aliens movies or something like that. It really creates an image well, and I love it. And another cool one is My New Best Friend, which is sort of a weird kind of electronic and more experimental song, but it's short and to the point. I really like it, and I guess it's basically about this guy finding like a robot and his sort of like interactions with this robot and sort of trying to have this human relationship with him, I guess. That's the way I perceive it. Also, I really, really love the ending song called End Me, which is a really melancholy piano piece with what sounds like acoustic guitar in the background, but I think it's just a digital guitar. But it sounds really cool anyway, and it's the perfect way to end this album. It kind of, you feel like you can see like the end credits coming down in front of your eyes as you listen to it, and it's a great conclusion to this album. When I listen to this album, I get a lot of mental pictures, and it takes me back to a lot of movies and video games from my childhood. I don't know if you guys ever played the game Chrono Trigger back in the early 90s. It was a RPG for the Super NES, and a lot of this album really brings me back to a point in the game where you travel far into the future and you find that the whole world's this just wasteland of ruins, and everyone lives in these domes and they're starving to death, and just everyone's groveling and slowly dying, and it's just this really bleak place. And it's part of your goal in this game is to alter the future so this horrible monster named Lavos doesn't come out of the earth and fucking kill everyone. It's really awesome. And I haven't played that game in years because I sold my Super Nintendo many years ago and that game, and I really, really want to play it again because I loved it so much. So if anyone has any tips on how to find it online or anything like that, I would really like to play it again. It's probably on one of those networks, but I'm too lazy to look, so whatever. This album also brings to mind something a little more common, which is the Terminator 2 movie, and all those amazing futuristic scenes, and the cyborgs are battling the humans, and John Connor is just, this militant, crazy leader leading the human resistance against the cyborgs. It's really, I don't know, I love it, man. And I saw that movie at a very impressionable age. I think it came out in 1991, and I was 10 years old at the time, and I think that was right around the time when my dad got like HBO, and I remember, they say fuck like 8,000 times in that movie, and it probably explains my swearing obsession and the inability not to swear all these years later. So thank you, Terminator 2 for that one. And I guess other than that, you can visualize a lot of other stories and movies in your mind too. You guys have seen them, you love them, and if you are into them, this is definitely an album you have to check out. In all of these episodes of Inner Sanctum, I've often talked about ways to enjoy dark ambient music, and at least for this particular album, I've always really enjoyed listening to it via headphones when I go for my late night walks. I don't go for these walks all the time, but when I do get the opportunity, it always means a lot to me, because it's a time to just really chill out while still getting a little physical activity. And I always do it at night when the sun's down, because the dark ambient music it makes those dark landscapes around me just kind of change into something else. And there's a business park really close to where I live, so I oftentimes go walking to this business park, and late at night it's completely silent, and it's just really this sort of, it gives off this vibe of sort of like a apocalyptic, you know, city where everything's just quiet and come to, you know, all life has come to an end, and it's really makes all these albums to come to life and turn to this whole other thing. And this is an album where I have to suggest that you do listen to it with a lot of attention and detail. It's not by any means an album you'd want to listen to while like reading or trying to pass into sleep. I don't think it would really work for that because there's so much going on and it really does require your attention. But that's just one of the things that I love about this project so much. Just everything that Simon does is he always creates these just great worlds, and everything is just such a, you know, builds upon the previous album. You just keep getting deeper and deeper into the storyline, and it's he has an immense talent for this kind of thing. And it'd be interesting to see if he ever like wrote like, you know, something else, you know, like stories or something like that, or if it's just his main passion is doing music, because there's always usually some words that go along with like the Atrium Carcerate albums, kind of elaborate on the story and stuff like that. So it would be interesting to see if he actually wrote a book someday or something like that, just to, you know, give another sort of medium into his world and his vision and all these unique places he creates through his music. Well, look at the front cover, shall we? So here's the front cover of 2146, and as you can see, there's these ominous creatures, presumably robots, with this single. I don't know if it's supposed to represent like their heart and their inner workings or what, but it could be like a spotlight on their front of their heads or whatever these robots are. But it's really interesting. I love it. It's elusive, but it has such atmosphere and just really depth to it. I mean, what a great cover. I mean, I've already said before how much I love Simon Heath's artwork, but I mean, this is really great stuff. And I'm going to give you a suggestion right now. Simon, you should probably start selling your art, because I'm pretty sure you would sell, and I know if you made like a poster of this, I would totally buy it. That's so super cool. I love it. So anyway, the inner panels feature more post-apocalyptic artwork, courtesy of Mr. Heath. Another one of the illuminated city amongst chaos and apocalypticness. And as you see, sounds, artwork, mastering, all by Simon Heath there. And the CD itself, of course, this digipack, also features the artwork once again, the front cover artwork. And it is a real silver back CD, not a CDR or anything like that. Cryo Chamber is very pro and legit. Yeah. And then the back cover. It's interesting to note that the first couple Cryo Chamber records all had Tesco distribution on the back, and Tesco, if you don't know, is a German label that I think is more common in like the industrial and neo-folk scene, but I know they have had some dark ambient releases. So I guess when Cryo Chamber first started out, they got the assistance of Tesco to get them over to European countries and stuff like that. And I think, like, I don't know, maybe like the first 5, 6, 10, or maybe 10 albums of Cryo Chamber all have the Tesco distribution logo on the back. So fun little fact for you there, I suppose, right? So anyway, again, I don't know what else I can say. There's probably more I'll think of in a little while, but this is, as I said, one of my absolute favoriteest dark ambient albums ever. By far the best Sabled Sun record, and one of the very best creations from Mr. Simon Heath. And I do think this is absolutely a must-own for anyone into cinematic dark ambient, or really soundtrack music, or, you know, dark ambient in general. It's a fantastic album, and about all I can say about this. So cheers to that. Cheers to hopefully many more years of Sabled Sun and dark ambient music from Simon Heath. Up next is an album that I've come to really, really love over the years since its release in early 2016, and it's an album I just recently got my hands on after doing a trade with the artist behind this project. And if you're curious for that moment, you can watch my second collection update video where you see me open the package and reveal this album in question. So the album in question is God Buddy Disconnect's Dread Portals. God Buddy Disconnect is, to me, is just a really special project. It came out in early 2016, just a few months after my album, and what I really liked about it is it had at least somewhat the same narration that I was trying to create in my albums. Spoken passages have always been a thing in my albums quite a bit, almost every single release, and it was really cool to suddenly see this new artist who was doing the same thing. And at least in my opinion, I think narration in a lot of dark ambient is still kind of a not widely used thing, and there's a lot of debate. I mean, a lot of people have told me my music would be better if it didn't have the narration, because it takes away the immersive mood somewhat in the atmosphere, but I don't know, it's just what I do, and obviously God by Disconnect is the same thing here, and I'm sure, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Bruce has gotten very similar comments where people have told him his vocals take away from the atmosphere and the immersion. I don't know, it's hard to say, but one thing I know is Bruce does an incredible job with his acting and his spoken dialogue, and I can only assume that, you know, he could probably do, I mean, it would be cool if he did like some of those YouTube videos where people read stories. I could see him doing that really well. The theme of Dread Portal centers around a lone character who at the beginning of the album is presumably shot during a robbery or something like that, and after he's shot, his body dies right there in the spot, but his soul lives on, and it's basically the album is this soul who just kind of journeys through some sort of state of, I guess, being half alive and half dead, while he's presumably also still alive, but on, like, I guess in a coma-like state. I guess it's kind of the vibe I was getting from the album, and basically the album is this journey this soul is otherwise taking, this unconscious adventure he's going through, and although it's not really adventure in a great sense, because he makes a remark quite early on that this state of transition and this place he can't escape is hellish, actually worse than hell, is how he describes it. So it's obviously not a good place, and that sort of also puts into perspective the music in question. The music is definitely very deep and dark and ominous sounding stuff, but there also are moments of some more, I guess I would say, lighter ambient moments, and this adds to the just kind of I think, like him coming up from the darkness and transcending to wherever, and you know, it's I don't know, I just love it. It's a good mix of the both, but definitely the darkness overrides the lightness. But there's definitely are some lighter characteristics in here, and there's also some really great melodies that pop up here and there, and also an exceptional usage of field recordings to once again just make the whole thing more immersive, more atmospheric, and just really take you to this this world that this poor soul is now trapped in. And you know, it's, I guess, you know, when this whole kind of, you know, I guess not trilogy, it's already done 3 albums, so I don't know if there's going to be more kind of continuing the theme or what, but it's going to be interesting to see if some point the character wakes up alive, or he wakes up and realizes where he is in some sort of afterlife or something. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see where Bruce is going to take the storyline, and definitely it's, you know, great stuff. You can I wouldn't say that, you know, like the narration is too distracting in this album, because it only appears on a few tracks, but it's worth noting it is sort of a, you know, at least a couple minutes each dialogue when they do pop up. So it, you know, if you're someone who's easily distracted by narration, vocals, maybe it wouldn't be the album for you. I don't know, but I think, as I said before, narration in dark ambient only enhances it further and just, you know, gives the listeners, you know, more access to this world that you know, the producer's trying to create, and it just gives you more you know, more points in just being there and experiencing this world, and just, you know, I mean, that's one of the things I love about dark ambient music, is just it's almost like a choose your own adventure, where you're just given that subtle outline, given a few choices, and you can partake in any adventure you like. And I'm sure that's exactly what Bruce was trying to do when he created this. I mean, really, just any dark ambient. I know that's what I do when I create my albums. It's just to you know, give that vague sketch, and just then, you know, hoping that the listener follows the clues and goes down this path into this amazing journey. And it's just this, atmospheric and brilliant, fun experience for them. I think that's what we're all trying to do here, and we all have a really great time with it. Perhaps one of my favorite tracks on this album is the first song called Rise of the Dormant Host, and it sets the scene for this whole thing. I mean, there's very atmospheric parts to the song, and the narration for the first couple minutes here just sets the stage for everything. You get a good look at what's going on and what's about to ensue in this album. And like I said, it goes through these kind of paths of both dark and light stuff, and it concludes with this more lighter passage that, you know, would be, I guess, associated with more general ambient or something like that. But it's really special and just really sets the stage well for this album. I also I like all the ones with the narration on. So Lost in the Astral is another one, also the longest song on the record, and very comparable again with the narration, just the flow of the song. But it's just Bruce does it so well, and he creates this awesome wall of sound, and it's just, you know, really immersive and really, I mean, it can be like trance-inducing. And I've actually fallen asleep to his more recent album, not on purpose, but I think I'm just narcoleptic. But it's very soothing, and you know, it's the sounds of this album really do calm you down and really just take you to this place of transition, this place where you don't have to maybe think too much or something. I don't know, it's hard to say, but it's a really great album and well worth checking out. So it's God by Disconnects, Dredge Portals. Well then, a look at the artwork, shall we? So here's the front cover, and I love I mentioned this in the unboxing video, but I love how there's this lone character in this mysterious, shadowy, foggy world who's, you know, obviously going through some serious shit, and he's not doing well, and it's a really great cover. It just really, again, creates these scenes in your mind, just something really special about this. I love it. And of course, once again, this is a creation of Simon Heath's. Guy really nailed it as usual with this one. And there's the back cover, with all the Trek titles, Cryo Chamber, and all those special details we all love about albums. And well, you already saw us in the last video, but if you may know, Bruce signed it for me, so I'm really excited about that once again. You know, so there's a better look at that signature. There's a panel here, which is super cool. There's part that I also read in that unboxing video, so if you're curious for more details on how Bruce came to sign this, definitely watch that unboxing video. And then of course, the CD itself, which I'm about to drop, which again features the front cover artwork. So, oh, and there's a little image behind the tray card too. All really cool stuff. Again, project well worth spending some time with. This album especially. All the albums are great, but this one has really hit home the most to me. I can honestly say this is my favorite one, and by far, again, one of the best albums on the Cryo Chamber label. That's God by Disconnects, Dredge Portals. Up next is a project from another long-running dark ambient producer. The project in question is City's Last Broadcast and their 2016 album, The Humming Tapes. City's Last Broadcast first premiered back in 2009 with the album called The Canceled Earth. It's a very well-received album of just a really fantastic dark ambient album that everyone should check out. City's Last Broadcast is of course the work of Per Boström, Swedish musician of legendary origin, who has been active since the early 2000s in the scene and is by far one of the most well-respected producers in the genre today. City's Last Broadcast was the Humming Tapes was his first album since 2009, and it was a resurrection of the project, which has of course released this album and has done two more collaborative albums since. And I would have to assume the next City's Last Broadcast album is probably not too far off of the horizon. So the Humming Tapes, much like the other albums I've talked about, has this sort of a post-apocalyptic theme to it, but whereas projects like Sabled Sun has, much more cinematic and deep narration and or shit like that, and sound effects and it's really immersive soundtrack stuff. City's Last Broadcast isn't too distant from Parr's work with camera height. This music, of course, is different though. There's small little dashes of piano and there's just weird little touches. I mean, Parr has this really signature sound, and allegedly this album, everything, and even a lot of camera height music is all created with just heavily processed field recordings. And if that's the case, then I can't imagine how he processes those strange sounds into dark ambient music. But the guy has got amazing sound. It's just something really special, and City's Last Broadcast is no different than Camera Height and any of his other projects. There's just something really special in Parr's work. It's really personal touch, and once you hear it, it really gets inside you. And he just, again, he can create these worlds without even muttering a single word in his recordings, but just as you listen and as you immerse yourself deeper and deeper within, you see these worlds. And if you have that mind, just kind of, allow yourself to relax and take yourself to those worlds. It's really a fantastic thing. Even if it is dark in origin, it just always, it's something special. And City's Last Broadcast is a project I've enjoyed immensely, and the Humming Tapes in particular is just an outstanding record. I've listened to it on many occasions while reading, while I'm passing to sleep. It's really a great one to listen to the car and a full volume on rainy days and stuff like that. It's just, it's a great record. I've even listened to it while trying to do some of my own writing and stuff like that. It's really inspired my own stuff, so it's a great record, all in general. And I really like the opening sound with the small little tinkling of the piano and stuff like that, mixed in with Parr's signature dark ambient sound. Another one I really like is Glossolalia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but there's this strange little repetitive sound in this album, and I don't know why. But the first time I heard this song, it just reminded me of that fucking really weird clown in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know what I'm talking about? Fucking clown! You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so it reminded me of that clown. I don't know why, but it's an incredible song. It's just, it has this weird repetitive sound, and it reminds me of clowns apparently, and it's just a really great, dark, immersive sound, and the atmosphere and the soundscapes within, this song are just really special. It's really, really, really cool stuff. And again, the field recordings are all there, but they're not used in that same way. Whereas think of a rainstorm in a normal dark ambient is a rainstorm, but in City's Last Broadcast and other projects from Parr Boostrom, it's something else. The rain is transformed to something else really amazing, and again, I don't know exactly how he does it, but it's something that's totally unique and one of a kind. And I always, of course, give my highest recommendations for anything Parr related. And I mean, let's face it, I've reviewed several of his projects already, so it shouldn't have been any surprise this was on the list, right? Hopefully not. So anyway, this is City's Last Broadcast, the Humming Tapes, and just a great soundscape, atmospheric release that's just gonna really, chill you out and take you to special places and a world that, you may not have even thought existed, but does exist. And it's a dark, bleak place, but it's a place that I think a lot of us can relate to, and I know all of us dark ambient fans can definitely relate to that kind of thing, because I think we're all a bunch of just depressed, introspective, deep thinkers that are lonely and shit like that, or something. I don't know exactly, but lost in this world anyway, because some of us do have wives and fiancés and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, another just fantastic album. So again, City's look at the Humming Tapes artwork. So on the front cover we have a landscape shot of what appears to be just this devastated city in ruin. Just looks like some adverse, horrible weather struck in, and it could be vacant, could be crawling with just deadly creatures, who knows, but it just looks like something horrible has happened to this town. And once again, Simon Heath handled the front cover artwork for this one, and he just did a really cool job, really. I mean, as usual, creates lots of mental pictures just when you look at it. You could just form your own opinions, decide what's going on here, but I think it's great, and it really just fits with the whole vibe of the album. He also did the back cover artwork here too, with all the track listings and all that good stuff. And again, this looks like another kind of view of the city, but it's a little more like, it's like the images are mirrored a little bit, and it's I don't know, really interesting and different. And yeah, it's got such a special touch for his artwork. Always just looks so cool. And on the inside, Power Boostrom actually contributed some of his paintings to this work, which is amazing, because Part is just such awesome artwork, and it's just I know I said this in one of my other videos, but I really hope someday Part releases like an art book or something, or just releases more of his paintings to the world. It's really cool stuff. So in this panel, it looks like what you see here is like a family having a seance, trying to connect it with an old family member or someone that had recently departed, something like that. You know, it's really cool. I mean, the guy's got a really special talent for painting, and I love it. Here we see what I could only assume is one of those family members possessed by the person they were trying to connect with, and then underneath the CD here there's one more painting, and I could guess maybe that is the lost soul who has come to them and is now speaking. I don't know, it's hard to say, but it's really creepy, dark stuff. I love it. It's brilliant, beautiful. And then the CD itself, once again, has the cover artwork, which you can see there. And then also on the other panel here is more of Simon's artwork, which has a little bit of information about the recording. And yeah, I mean, great stuff. I just love it. It's really beautiful artwork all the way through in this one. And again, just, you know, kind of puts into perspective why people should be buying, you know, physical media, because you get this artwork. And if you're not, I mean, I guess if you're not like an artwork fan or an art lover, you know, maybe you don't understand that, maybe it's just the music itself is important, but for me it's always about having that extra package and having something to go with the music, to help the visualizations, to help me just imagine more what's going on when I listen to this music. So stuff like this is highly essential to me, and just, you know, it's something I have to have, and I will always continue to support physical media. And you know, especially when, you know, what you're getting is so amazing, and how can't you, right? So anyway, once again, that's the last broadcast of the Humming Tapes. Alright guys, I hope you've been enjoying the Cryo Chamber Special, but I'm sorry to say we have reached the end. I got just one more album for you, but as you can probably imagine, there may be a part 2 to this someday, or I will just finally start reviewing Cryo Chamber albums on this show like I should have been doing since the beginning, but I don't know why. So sorry again about that, Simon. It was nothing personal, obviously. Just my brain was in other places as per usual. Anyway, one last album, and this is quite a behemoth of an album. It is a 3-way collaborative album with well, at the time I only knew 2 of the projects, and the other project in here was still completely unknown to me. But it's an album that I think really just transcends and really takes Dark Ambient to a whole new level, because it really just blends in 3 distinct Dark Ambient producers' sound, and it mixes it so well that it's just it exemplifies these guys' talents and just their ability to create this kind of music. So the album in question is Onyx, which was released back in 2016, and it's a 3-way collaborative with Apocryphos, Camorhide, and Atrium Carcerate. Of course, Camorhide and Atrium Carcerate I mentioned like every single video multiple times, but Apocryphos is, at the time, it was a completely new project to me. I had literally never heard of it, and I don't know how I missed it, but I've since gone back and checked out the other albums he released, and of course the newer stuff also on Cryo Chamber, and it's all really, really good, but I still haven't gotten around to buying it. And usually it takes me to buy an album before I really just get into it and really immerse myself and familiarize myself with the work. So I still got to do that one of these days. So out of all these 3 bands, Apocryphos was the band I didn't really know shit about, but still, when I listen to this album, you can really you can still feel there's like this other influence mixed in with that Camorhide and Atrium Carcerate sound, which for me, is very familiar. I know these bands and I know their sound, and when you hear Atrium Carcerate and Chemorite collaborating, you can hear that. You got the small piano work and melodies of Atrium Carcerate, those borderlining, underlining industrial characters mixed with that deep, droning, just rich atmospheric landscapes that Chemorite has created for many years. And then, of course, Apocryphos brings in this more, I guess the website uses the word sacral, and that's not a bad way to describe it. It has this sort of, I don't know, this really sort of uplifting kind of thing, but it's still kind of mysterious and ghostly sounding too. So a small little story to tell about this album, and I believe, if memory serves me, it came out in the winter time, or maybe I didn't check it out till the winter time. Either way, when the first time I heard the opening track, Memorial, it just, I don't know how to explain it. I was really going through some shit back then, and I was really having one of my periods of just extreme depression and anxiety every day, and this song really, like, it was constantly looping in my brain. Something about the opening lines of the song are just really amazing. It created this scene of like my life flashing before me and stuff like that. And just really cinematic and deep while still being simple and actually pretty minimal in its overall execution. It's just it's a really amazing track, very melancholy and deep sounding, and I don't know. I would say it's easily the best song on this album, and quite possibly one of the best dark ambient songs I've ever heard. It's just an immense masterpiece. And I also like the song called "A Pale Sign Revealed," and this is another one where it has this. It just creates this like foggy, mysterious, almost something Silent Hill, just but minus like the horror aspects. It's really elusive and just really builds. It kind of builds throughout its 11-minute duration. It's just an immense track, and I mean, just again, this is some grade A+ stuff here. It's just some of the best dark ambient you're gonna hear out there, and I mean, this whole album flows by pretty well, even if it is quite a long album. That's worth mentioning too. And but I mean, it's a great one. I've listened to this one again many times, reading and passing into sleep, or it's just great for enhancing, dull moments in your life and turning it into atmospheric moments. And I'm always playing music. It's just still who I am. I mean, if I'm downstairs cooking dinner, there's something playing on the Bluetooth speaker. It's just the way I'm always immersed in music. It's my passion, what makes me so happy, and it's who I am. So anyway, I'm kind of diverging here, but this is a great record. That's all more I can say, and it really just amazing worlds are built in this one, and they have followed it up with another album called Echo, and unfortunately I haven't gotten my hands on it, and for some reason I haven't even bothered to listen to it yet, so I really need to remedy that soon, because I'm sure it's just another amazing album. But in the meanwhile, I will continue to enjoy Onyx, and that is, once again, it's a three-way collaborative between Apocryphos, Chemorite, and Atrium Carcerate, and again, just one of the best dark ambient albums released in Cryo Chamber. So alright, let's check out the artwork of Onyx, and right here you can see it's a pretty minimal cover, but still, again, it sets an atmosphere, a dark tone to the whole thing, and I think it's great. I think it fits, the whole, I mean, it looks like a dark sun or a dark moon burning. It's just really interesting. I mean, you just gotta kind of sit there and think about it, what it could all mean. And so, anyway, that's the front cover, and then here's the back cover, which again is pretty minimal and just just dark and ominous. And you can inside of Digivic, of course. Continues that theme, Onyx, which, by the way, does mean black, so I guess I would explain why everything's black, correct? And no, this album is not a tribute to that old rap group from the early 90s. At least I don't think so. There's another panel here. And this panel over here, which gives you all the juicy details, of course. What we got here? So we got written, produced, performed by Simon Heath, Robert C. Kozletsky, and Par Boostrom. Artwork, Simon Heath and Par Boostrom. Mastering, Mr. Simon Heath. And last but not least, of course, we have the CD, which, again, has cover artwork. And a very small image in the tray card as well. So that's Onyx by Apocryphos, Camarhite, and Atrium Carcere. Great record, definitely worth checking out, and as I said, one of the best albums so far in the Cryo Chamber label. Check it out. Well guys, we've reached the end, and I have to thank you for joining me for the Cryo Chamber Special. I hope I was able to highlight some of the more important and awesome records on this label, and it's it's just a small sampling of this label. I mean, there's been tons and tons of great artists that have signed this label and have released just fantastic albums, which I think will over time reveal themselves to be legends of the genre. And I mean, there's a lot of albums I could have talked about. I mean, look at this stuff. I mean, I could have talked about the other Sabled Sun album, the collaborative albums, other Atrium Carcere albums. I mean, look at this stuff. It's just awesome. It's all great music. I mean, they got some vinyls now too. I mean, look at this. Just great stuff, you know. I mean, they even got tote bags. Oh, that's the wrong way. Tote bags. I mean, the Cryo Chamber, get out of here. Cryo Chamber's a great label, and I would see the future being very favorable for them. And as I said before, I think it's largely because of Cryo Chamber that dark ambient music is flourishing so much these days. And I owe a great gratitude to them, and especially for his project, Simon Heath's project, Sabled Sun, because it was the inspiration I needed to finally create dark ambient music. And although I am very naturally a bleak person, dark ambient music has made my life better, and it's been so great just connecting with like Simon Heath himself and so many amazing other people in the genre. And it's a blessing to be a part of it, and I'm so grateful that people have enjoyed my music, and something I never would have expected. So it's just, again, I can never say it enough. It's such a great community, and just the fanship and the producers and everyone involved is just, it's amazing. So it's great to be a part of it. So hope you enjoyed this Cryo Chamber Special. Like I said, I should probably more routinely review the albums I have and the ones I buy. So I think that's something definitely, some vinyls are in reviewing queue for the future. So thanks again. This is premiering live, so I hope you guys like this feature. Maybe I should do this with all my videos or something. I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun, especially with the chat going. But just as a reminder, as soon as this video ends, the chat log disappears apparently forever, and you can never see it again. So if you have any burning questions you really want to see or answer or anything like that, I guess just type them in really quickly before the stream ends. All right, bye. End credits. Cue them.